Today we are going to discuss hip mobility, and there are quite a few different exercises that you can do to start working on the mobility within your hips. Today I'm just going to show you 5 of them so you can kind of see where you're at and where you might be a little sticky with your movement. So the first exercise that we're going to do is a click clack. That is what I got. This is a Katy Bowman exercise. So what we are going to do is we are going to be moving our pelvis forward and back. And the key here is during this exercise, we don't want to be going through our back as much as through our pelvis. So what we're going to do is we're going to think about pulling our heels towards our bottom. And when we do that, it kind of lengthens us straight up. And then we're going to push like we're pushing our feet away, and that's going to round us down. So we're going to lift up and then round down. And you'll see that my upper body's not doing much. It's not this, okay? It's down here in my pelvis. So we're going to go pull up. That's a nice straight back. And then push away, creating this click, clack, that's what she calls it, movement. So just tilting the pelvis forward and back. Now what this kind of gets you prepared to do is be able to roll backwards. So if you get here and you're able to roll back and then roll back up, then you know that your pelvis goes through that position. For some people, they will roll back and then they fall. Bam! Because the pelvis isn't moving properly into this posterior position, this rounded position. So if that is you, if you tend to slap the floor, if you hear the floor, hit the floor hard when you do that, then you're probably one of those who doesn't get full range of motion in your pelvis, and this is an exercise that you need to be working on. The next exercise is kind of adding on to that. This one we're going to lay all the way down, and we're going to pretend that we have a clock resting on our hips. And we're going to be thinking like our body, our head is 12 o'clock, it's 3 o'clock over here, down there at 6 o'clock, and then 9 o'clock. And we're going to think about moving our pelvis through that position. So I'm going to tuck my tailbone under, trying to lift up towards me. That is that posterior pelvic tilt. Then we're going to push it to one side. So this hip drops and this hip lifts up. Then we're going to go down to the 6 o'clock. This is where you get into this arch position. Low back lifts off the mat. And then other side is going to lift up, and this hip is going to drop. Now you may notice that one side is a little bit stickier. And maybe if I were to go, say, 3 to 9 o'clock, I don't notice it as much. But if I go here and then I try to fall into it, so say if you go 6 o'clock and then you move to 3 o'clock, that feels good. But if I go 6 o'clock and then I move to 9 o'clock, there's a little tension there. So that's, again, something to pay attention to. These are movement patterns that you might be a little sticky in. So then I would start working on maybe some myofascial release in my low back glute area with a foam roller. So you kind of have to think about why is this area sticky, and then what exercises can we do to help. If you're confused and you're like, I don't know, this is sticky, but I have no clue what to do, let me know. That's where I come in, and I'm able to help you, guide you, and let you know what exercises you can do. The next exercise is going to be where we're on our hands and knees. I'm going to bring one foot out. Now, when I do this, I'm not just here. I'm going to start to push out a little bit, and I'm going to work on my toe coming forward and then my toe lifting up. So here what I'm doing is I'm seeing, can my femur rotate through, like in the hip bone, like in the pelvis, right? So can it move back and forth? My upper leg, is it able to move in this position? Now, you're not going to get a lot of extension. You're not going to be able to get a lot of external rotation here. We just want to make sure we have some. And then comparing both sides. Is one side stickier than the other? If there is, then you might want to focus on that one side a little bit more. When we're doing this, another thing to mention to you is make sure your midsection is parallel. So we're not going here, we're not trying to drop our belly down, and we're not tucking our tailbone under, okay? So we're trying to go neutral with our pelvis when we're twisting. The fourth exercise, this one can be really difficult for some. So if that was really uncomfortable, then I would not recommend going on to this next one. This is a Frogger, and this is working, stretching out those inner thighs. And you're just bringing your legs out to the side, and you're kind of moving forward and back. Now, some people will go all the way down. What I am going to ask you to do is don't compromise your back to get into these positions. So what I'll see, a lot of people will go here and then they're up in this arched position. Don't do that. So I'm not going to go through this. If you're interested, come talk to me about this one. I'll work with you privately. And then the last exercise that we're going to do is a 90-90 stretch, or a seated 90-90. And there's lots of variations that can be done with this exercise. I have some videos in YouTube. There's like 3 hip mobility exercises that you can do as well, and they're kind of like a variation of this, moving back and forth through different positions. So that's another one as well. I like to bring my legs into kind of this 90 degree position and just work on dropping my hip down and up. So this is going to be, this leg is internally rotated, this leg is externally rotated, and then seeing what type of movement I get within the hip. Again, really trying to pay attention to not the upper body creating a lot of movement, and try to keep it down in that hip. So that hip is trying to sit down where your sits bone is trying to press into the floor, and then lift up again. So down and up. And then do it to the other side. And here again, pay attention. Do you notice a difference between the two sides? That's really what you're looking for when you're doing mobility type drills, is one, do you feel tight and sticky in something? And if you do, does it feel the same on the other side or does it not? Because some of us might be tighter in certain areas than others. But if the biggest concern that I would have is if one side's really loose and one side's really tight, we're going to need to work on that. If you're really tight in both areas, again, something to work on, but that wouldn't make me question as much if one side's really tight and one side's much looser. So, if you have questions about any of these exercises, feel free to leave me a comment below and let me know, what problems you're having. I'm happy to be able to help you. For those of you who are dealing with tension and tightness in one area, or something's really sticky in one area, we can work through it that way. So make sure to leave a comment below if you like this. Make sure to like it, and then let me know what else would you like to hear from me.